Hey, welcome to 9394, a music podcast. I'm Travis. As always, I hope that you're doing well, and I thank you for joining me. Also joining me today is my good friend Amanda Hallbeck. She is here to talk about the 1994 soundtrack to the movie The Crow. Oh man, this fucking soundtrack, even before the movie was out, it seemed like it was imprinted on our consciousness and the zeitgeist. Between the tragedy of Brandon Lee and hearing about that before the movie came out, and then songs like Big Empty from Stone Temple Pilots being released in advance, there was a lot of anticipation for it and then a lot of acceptance from a certain generation or two when it came out. I was very happy to get Amanda back on the show. She came and visited me in person, and we recorded this episode a little while back.
I got syphilitic hetero friends in every part of town. I don't hate them, but I know them. I don't want them hanging around. I won't put my bones for every little girl who gets on down. I got space got me. I should be sailing it by the pound. Ever since I heard the voice, I thought I had no choice, but then I kissed her.
Amanda,
Hello.
thank you for coming back to 9394.
Thank you for having me.
Good to be here with you. What album are we here to talk about today?
We are here to talk about a soundtrack, one of the greatest, bestest soundtracks, The Crow.
The Crow soundtrack from 1994. Triple platinum album, peaked at number 1 on the Billboard's Top 200. This is one of the biggest compilation albums, I think, from the era. Maybe the biggest from 93, 94, those 2 years specifically.
You're only looking at those 2 years? Yeah, I think so.
It was a big deal.
Uh-huh.
Good movie, too. I like the movie.
Good movie. I also still like the movie.
A little angsty.
Yes.
A little gothy.
If I do go back and watch it now, yes.
No complaints about that. It's just how it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've made my peace, but it's a little angsty, and that's totally fine.
For sure. So this soundtrack, do you remember like when you first listened to it, first got into it and all that good stuff?
I saw the movie in the theater when it came out, and I was totally blown away. I thought it was so cool. It had such a cool vibe. I never experienced anything like that. And I got the soundtrack right away. And it was super eye-opening. It introduced me to a lot of bands that I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't think it was really my demographic. So this came out when we were what?
We would have been 13.
So early teens and early high school.
Yeah, probably freshman year, I think.
Yeah. And as a young lady who, I don't know, I was kind of straight-laced. So there was a lot of stuff on here that, yeah, it was really eye-opening. I loved it. I played it all the time.
I had kind of a different thing with it because, like, on this album, there are only 3 bands that are on this album that I was not already into.
I figured.
I bet you can even name them. Can you guess?
Well, the ones that you weren't
The
familiar
ones
with?
I'm unfamiliar with.
I don't know. Like the one at the very end, Jane Sisbury.
Jane Sisbury, I'd never heard of her.
Maybe that other one with the woman who sings.
Medicine. Yep, never heard of that. and then For Love Not Lisa.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Every other act on here was like, my mom got cable the summer of 93, I think. So I was like really into 120 Minutes and Alternative Nation on MTV.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. So I was like really familiar with a lot of these bands already between that and 89X, the local radio station. So I actually got the album before I even saw the movie because they released the album like kind of as like an advance of the movie, as I recall. I think.
Okay. Yes.
Right? Trying like it's a way of trying to drum up excitement for it because they were all like, again, they were like some of the biggest bands in the country, in the world at the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I didn't know any of them. I was certainly familiar or had heard the names, but maybe I wasn't familiar with the music. I even remember MTV had a special
on The Crow
for the soundtrack.
Oh, that's cool.
Kennedy was on there.
All right, it's Kennedy, and we are celebrating the upcoming release of The Crow starring Brandon Lee, which comes out Friday, May 13th. And the movie is based on this lovely comic book by a man named James O'Barr, and it is about a man who dies and then comes back to life to avenge the murder of him and his fiancée. This movie is an alternative music fan's absolute dream, and I'm not going to say what kind of dream because, kids, this is a family show.
I don't know what she hosted. I don't remember the name of the show.
Alternative Nation.
Yes, so I think it was an episode of that. And I don't know if they played just stuff from the soundtrack. They must not have. There wasn't a video for every song. Or
just
maybe
empty, I think.
Maybe bands that were on it and then they played some other music or maybe stuff that just felt like it belonged.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they did a special for it.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember seeing the movie, and I also heard about the movie before it came out, because I remember hearing about Brandon Lee's death.
Yeah.
Even before I knew who he was. It was like, Bruce Lee's son died making the movie. So there was like all kinds of like kind of weird anticipation, dark anticipation in a way for the movie, which is an extremely dark movie.
Yeah.
And an extremely dark soundtrack, if there ever was one. But it was a moody era. There's a reason why this went triple platinum during a moody fucking era. I think so
too. And that's something, when I listen to the album, I keep getting that sensation of, not necessarily darkness. I wouldn't describe it just as dark, but there's almost this groove to it that carries through almost the whole thing. And I really like that.
There is a real cohesive feel, especially to the first half.
Yes.
Right? It kind of starts to fall off right about 3/4 through or 2/3 through.
Yes,
But the first 5 or 6 songs just like go bang, bang, bang. They lead into each other so well.
Yeah, they definitely have the heavy hitters and the cohesion. There's something, I think, with the bass lines in a lot of them. They flow together well. It's kind of funky. There's this funky, dark groove.
And it's funny because it's goth industrial is probably the main genre on here, but it's certainly not just that, because you got Rage Against the Machine and Pantera and some other stuff that really is nowhere near that. And yet they all do flow pretty well together.
Yeah.
So let's get started with the real business here. There's a lot of really diverse songs on here. And I know I had a pretty hard time picking the best song. How'd you do?
Yeah, I also had a very hard time for that same reason.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of standouts. Okay, so I settled on Dead Souls. That's one of the big ones.
Yeah. Dead Souls, so I didn't know for years that was a cover.
Oh, okay.
It's,
yeah,
it's a cover from, it's a Joy Division song.
Yes.
And I almost picked it to be my favorite too. I'm glad I didn't because you did, so I did the work for me. But in part I didn't because it's a cover, I guess.
Know.
You know what I mean? But it is like a real standout song, not just on the soundtrack, but a standout song for Nine Inch Nails.
Yes.
Which says a lot.
Yes. And I think it probably introduced a lot of people to Joy Division.
Oh, I bet.
Everybody's little brains were blown when they figured that out and then listened to Joy Division after that, hopefully. Yeah. It has differences from the original, and I love them. I think they're perfect choices.
I don't have a lot of nostalgia for the original one, but I have a lot of nostalgia for this one, so I'm extremely biased when I say this, but it's one of the few occasions where I feel like it's an improvement as far as the cover. It's a lot more crisp, it's a lot more like structured, it flows better than the original, I feel like.
I do too, because I heard this version first, and exactly, I feel like it's a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
It has that groove that the original doesn't quite have, which I think is on purpose. I mean, they have two different feels. And that's cool, because if you're in a certain mood, you can listen to one or the other. The original by Joy Division is a lot more disjointed, and I think Nine Inch Nails version downplays that a little bit and has that groovy feeling. I keep using that word, but I don't know what else to describe it. It's sort of this rolling... Like, I love the drums in the beginning. They do this rolling groove. It reminds me of like if you would watch something like a ball toppling down stairs or something. To get really specific, there's the intro of the song, then there's a small section before the first verse where it completely changes. It kind of amps up a little bit, but there's a different time signature and a different rhythm, and it's fantastic. That is in the original song, but it's a little more smooth in the Nine Inch Nails version. Yeah. I think it's brilliant writing. In the Joy Division version, there's a little bit of an emphasis on this weird beat that falls off, and I think that contributes to how it feels a little disjointed on purpose. Yeah. And then in the Nine Inch Nails version, it's more fluid. I know. It's just so good. It
is. When I think of the album, it's probably the song that comes to my mind first.
Yeah.
And I feel like this band, Nine Inch Nails, and the band that I choose for my favorite on this album are like the two bands that maybe fit best with this soundtrack, because my favorite song on this album is Burn by The Cure.
I mean, that was my other top one.
Right?
I mean, so I kept flip-flopping.
It's so good. I did the same thing. I was really trying to decide between those two songs.
Yeah. And I think I picked Dead Souls because of the way that I love that specific section. I've heard some other people that you've had on here talk about music theory. And so if anyone listens and they're out there that are into that, because I think it switches to like a 15/8 time signature.
Dead Souls.
in Dead Souls, that section before the first verse with the drums, and there's this beat that just kind of skips, and it goes like there's the 2 sections where it's like a 7 and then an 8, and then a 7 and then an 8, and then that's it. And it's just fantastic. And I did read that for Dead Souls, so the comic had a lot of references to Joy Division songs, and then...
And the Cure songs.
Yeah, so for us to pick the 2 that seem to be... I mean, it makes sense that those 2 would fit the soundtrack.
Yeah. The song Burn, I mentioned this recently on another episode, but I never really like it when the first song on an album starts really quiet. I'm like, what volume do I set?
Exactly. I felt like, did I turn it on? Is it going?
Right. But I do think it works for that song because you get this ambient noise of crows and all that kind of shit. And then when it kicks in, it's so strong. And like the Cure... Alright, so I love the Cure. I do kind of feel like after about this song is kind of when I was like, they haven't done anything that really excited me since probably this song in 1994, to be honest. At least that I heard. I know they released some stuff that I never listened to, so I'm sure there's some good stuff there. But like for me, this was the last thing of theirs that I was really, really into. And I think it's really one of their best songs ever.
I do too.
In some ways, it sounds like early Cure, like Disintegration Cure, well, like mid-career Cure, like Disintegration Cure. But in other ways, it sounds like nothing else really that they ever did.
Yes.
Right?
I think so too. Well, recently on the way here, I was listening again, and there's some production on it that does remind me of that era. There's just a very mid-90s sounds going on there.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's a great song. I mean, it's a very straightforward relation to the song. It was written for the movie, right?
Yes.
I think okay. Yeah. So it's not something that they...
He's even singing about crows in it and shit.
Well, exactly. And it seems to be a little bit from the perspective of the... He calls it shadows or the spirit or kind of having that feeling and existing in that new way. It's so layered. There are so many sounds going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's really effective because it reminds me, or it makes me think of, like, he's waking up in his body. It looks painful in the movie. He's feeling physically different. He's probably disoriented. And there's these swirling sounds and layers of sound that are a little disorienting. There's an odd vibration to it almost, or at least that's what it reminds me of.
And like Dark Souls, there is this persistent drum beat. It's just like you are riding this wave with the song.
Yes.
And it really works.
It does. There is a relentlessness about the rhythm of so many of these songs.
Especially those two, I feel like.
Yes. And they're not next to each other on the soundtrack, but they go together so well.
Yeah. Now, what about what doesn't go so well with the song? What's the weakest song on here?
I mean, there's probably going to be some disagreement with me on here.
Oh, okay. I'm excited.
This might be a little controversial.
I'm curious.
The song that I skip the most is the Pantera song.
Stuck on this.
And I mean, I like the sentiment of the song. I understand that it's a cover.
Right.
And I've heard that it's a pretty straightforward cover. Like, there's not a lot that's changed. I think that's his voice.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, I understand the energy of, like, the screaming. It's just kind of tiring to me, and it kind of makes my head hurt a little bit. I understand why the song is on there. I understand, like, the content of the song. And that fits very well.
I think the song fits with the soundtrack, but if you're not a Pantera fan, you're probably not really going to like it. And I'm not a big Pantera fan. I don't know if I'm a Pantera fan at all, but I do have some affection for the song. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because Pantera didn't write it. I think that it's because it's really more of a straightforward punk song.
Yeah.
And you're getting like, it's almost like they're not being the regular speed metal band that they are. They're being more like a hardcore punk band. And that works well for me. And I like the lyrical content, and I like the Taxi Driver quotes, which, why not put the Crow quotes in there? But that's fine. It's fine.
Because it was an older song.
Oh, that they had already recorded?
But not that old. That's what's weird to me, and I'd kind of be interested to know the story. I can't remember the name of the band.
Poison Idea.
Poison Idea. So I think that the album that this song was from 1990. So it's not even that old.
The Pantera. Oh,
the original.
The original was like 1990.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not that much time has gone by. No. And as far as comparing the two versions, Pantera's version is pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. At least of what I had heard or what I remember. I like the music. I think it's just I'm not super into the delivery. And I don't know if that's classic for Pantera.
I mean, I think it's pretty understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, Pantera's, they're kind of a take on the lead kind of band.
Yeah. So it's typical. I mean, I know that I've probably heard other Pantera songs, and it almost makes me think of a caricature of that type of band, but I think it's because Pantera is so famous.
Yeah, they are the
right
thrash metal, well, other than like Metallica and some other ones, but they are like one of those premier metal bands.
So his vocal stylings, it's like, oh, well...
Other people imitate it.
So it's this weird full circle thing for me.
Yeah.
Where I'm giggling a little bit at the rage and that specific style of vocals.
I understand. I went the opposite way as far as my least favorite song on the album. I had to go with Time Baby 3 by Medicine.
I get that.
So repetitive.
It is.
It's just, I get it. You don't want to take it away or whatever.
Yeah.
I understand. Don't let them take it away. Like, let's say that 60 fucking million more times. That's, what's her name? Robin...
Cocteau Twins.
Yeah.
I don't remember
From the Cocteau Twins. And that's cool, but like, this band, Medicine, like, I'm like, I've never heard of them. So I Googled them the other day, and I'm looking at them on Wikipedia. I'm like, yet another band that is being described by some supposed authority as a shoegaze band. I'm like, what the fuck makes them shoegaze? I have no idea. Apparently I don't know what shoegaze is. But yeah, they were one of the three, well, really two tracks I pretty much always skipped. That and Love Not Lisa's tracks, I always skipped those growing up back in the day. So I had this on CD, so I was like, yeah, I'm good.
But what about the last song?
We walk the narrow path beneath the smoking skies. Sometimes barely tell the difference between darkness and light. Do we have faith? In what we believe. The truest test is when we cannot see. I hear a pound in the streets below, and the women crying, and the children moaning. There's something wrong. It's hard to believe that love will prevail. Oh, it won't rain all the time.
That song I can do it.
Did you do it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would listen to that song.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do the Jane Siberry song. Okay.
Yeah.
It's still not my favorite
Right.
on the album, but it's got the lines from the movie, so it's like the most grounded in the movie. Can't rain all the time.
Yes.
Right. She wrote that with Graham Revell, who did the score, so like
Yes.
themes from that song are worked through the movie. So it's the most of the movie out of all the songs, other than like maybe like the Thrill Kill Cult song and I guess the Medicine song, because they're actually like appear on screen playing those songs. But yeah, it's not my favorite, but it's okay.
Same. I just spoke about how the Pantera song wasn't my favorite because of the screaming, but a song that I absolutely love is Ghost Rider. That's considered underrated.
Another cover.
I mean, I know that it's a cover. I thought maybe everybody loved it. I honestly don't know.
I don't hear people talk about that song as much.
So I guess I would stick it for my underrated. It's amazing. It's weird and amazing.
Funny.
It is funny.
Yeah.
I knew it was a cover, but I didn't listen to the original until much, much later.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a remastered version of some of the songs from the band Suicide.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's not a very accurate picture. If you want to see this band, go find some really old video of them performing, because it's something to behold. I will say that. The cover sounds quite different. I think it's a different kind of scream, obviously. It's a different kind of vocal. But I love how it starts. We're going to get going. And then right away, the dial turns down. And it turns into this grind of a song. It's like this back and forth. Again, if I were to talk about music theory, it's this like a 2/2 time. It's this slow tick-tock, tick-tock, over and over again, pretty much through the whole song. And then Henry Rollins is doing Henry Rollins, and he's coming on there and doing his angry yell. But it's funny.
It's great. So this album came out in 1994. In 1992, I'm pretty sure, maybe 91, Marvel rebooted Ghost Rider, so that they retired Johnny Blaze and they brought in Danny Ketch as the new protagonist.
I knew you were going to know all about this.
And so I got issue number 1 and went nuts with it. I was just obsessed with the Danny Ketch storyline of Ghost Rider, and I had a big Ghost Rider shirt, and people kind of made fun of me for it a little bit, because I was a chubby little kid, and oh yeah, I love the biker guy with the chains and the spikes, which I am not a biker kind of guy at all, but I had this big thing for Ghost Rider. But it was also one of those things, because at that age, if something's new to you, it seems like it's new to everyone. No one knows who Ghost Rider is, this classic Marvel character who's been around for decades. But it was new to me. And so to hear, I'm like, wait, he's fucking singing about Ghost Rider? He's singing about my favorite superhero? Yeah. So I was really excited about that. I thought that was pretty cool.
It's great.
It's fun.
It does feel a bit disjointed, and I think that's on purpose. Sometimes the rhythm that he speaks, scream sings.
Yeah, it's Henry Rollins, not the most precise singer.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't feel that was in error. I think that's just part of the style and the production of the song, and it's great. It's a little off in the way that it makes you pay attention more, almost. I don't know what the original, like, lyrical content about, like, Ghost Rider is cute in his blue jumpsuit kind of thing. But I love that. I love Henry Rollins screaming, like, he's looking cute. It's awesome. Yeah, one of the lines is, like, that Ghost Rider looks cute, and he's wearing his blue jumpsuit.
Yeah, I got the blue jumpsuit. Something
about that.
Right.
But yeah,
that's funny.
The original has that.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure what they're referring to, but I like it.
Not a term you'd ordinarily associate with it.
Exactly. And that's why it's cool. And I guess I could talk a lot about, like, oh man, like, Henry Rollins is this badass, muscle, tough guy.
Hardcore, Mr.
Hardcore, but I think that fits with him. Like, he's more of a healthy example of masculinity.
Sure, I think. I don't
Sometimes.
know.
I don't know. I thought that he had some beliefs or thoughts about a little bit more.
He's alright. I knew exactly what song I was going to make my underrated once I listened to the album. I didn't know going in, but as soon as I listened to the album again for the first time in a while and, like, went all the way through, as soon as the song came on, I'm like, oh shit, I have been underrating the fuck out of the song Color Me Once by Violent Femmes.
Glad you picked it. It's so good.
I had forgotten, especially, like, the outro of it, like the way it's so jazzy almost.
It is
groovy. They are such an underrated band, even to me. Like, I grew up listening to the Femmes and stuff, and I'll throw them on sometimes. But every time I hear them, I'm like, oh yeah, I like them more than I think that I like them. You know what I mean?
Every time
I hear them, I'm like, oh fuck yeah! Like, why am I listening to them more?
Exactly.
And that song in particular, "Color Me Once," it makes me think of kind of like the second album. The kind of darkness that they really started getting into. The Femmes are so great at always sounding like the Femmes, but also still finding a way to diversify their songwriting and kind of, like, mix it up.
Yeah.
And that song, I think, is a really great example of a maturing band that a lot of people would just think of that first album and be done. But they have so much good stuff, and I think it's one of the best songs they did.
I probably haven't followed them as closely as you. The sound of the song is a little darker. And it seemed like their lyrical content was always dark, but the feel of the sound of some of the songs is very upbeat.
Yeah.
Which is always humorous to me.
But not on this song.
There's some weirdness and nerdiness about that I feel is sometimes seen in They Might Be Giants.
I can see that.
Where it sounds very happy, but there are some dark topics.
Yeah. And the Femmes are just one of those bands that I think everyone's still kind of collectively worn out on a few songs.
Yeah.
Even though it's been decades, so that in a way it works against them in terms of people appreciating them. Because they're like, oh, well, let's do this song, okay.
I know.
But, like, in reality, I think that they were super influential, and that song proves that they had a long run of just producing some really solid songs.
Do you happen to know if this was written for The movie?
I actually don't know.
I don't either. Because it fits so well.
It really does. I don't remember it in the movie at all. I'm sure it is. I haven't watched the movie since I did it on Cinema 9.
I think it is. I think it is in the movie.
Well, I'm sure they all are, but like there's a degree of like how highlighted they are. You know, like the My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult song, like, you know, after I flash. I can just see the dude with his glasses in that scene because it's just like such an intense scene. Like, you're not going to forget the fucking Thrill Kill Cult scene. You know what I mean? It's a good song.
I really like that song.
It's a really good song.
I really like it.
Innocent people being crucified.
There's a little bit more of the techno industrial sound, I guess. I mean, but that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of robots and a little bit more sci-fi. But I think that's just the nature of their sound, of the like electronic sound.
Yeah.
But they combine it with these guitars, and I love it. And the little clips. There's several songs that have these little spoken samples. I don't know what those are from.
I don't either.
But I love them.
Yeah, that Thrill Kill Cult song, it's like, it's so aggressive, but it's like aggressive party music.
It is.
You know? It's an interesting song. And another song on that album that I think is really great, that's an industrial song, which in this era, 93, 94, I was definitely about like goth industrial stuff. Like pretty much everyone was around that time. And then I got very over it. But that Machines of Loving Grace song is so sexy. It's so fun. When it starts, you're just like, yeah, fuck yeah.
What I mean when I say it has this groove. In all those songs, they have this relentless groove that you are going on this ride. And it is sexy. It's got like a sexy grind to it. Like, what happened to this band? They've gone through a ton of iterations, and it's like they never really took off huge, but the song is so good.
It is really good. And the title, you know, Golgotha Tenement Blues, that's so...
It's evocative.
It's
You're
so
like, what?
Yeah, like, how did no one else come up with that before you? That's so great.
Exactly.
That is such a great fucking string of words together.
Yeah, so that is a band I definitely was not familiar with.
I had the cassette. That song wasn't on it, but I did have the cassette because of 120 minutes and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I remember really liking the cassette, but like if they released anything else afterwards, I have no idea. It was just like the one and done as far as I remember.
I read a little bit about them at some point, and I think that there were people who came and went from the band. There may have been issues with the label.
Okay.
It seems like there were hindrances, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
You having the cassette, do you feel like that song is
indicative
of them as a band?
Yeah.
See, I need to check that out.
But I haven't listened to that cassette in a really long time. But yeah, that is how I remember that band.
Yeah, it's good.
There was a bunch of stuff around that time, like Gravity Kills and Stabbing Westward and like KMFDM.
Those bands that you mentioned are exactly what I was talking about when I said that there was a bit of production to the Cure song that I can hear. It specifically reminded me of Stabbing Westward.
That's funny.
Actually, there's something on the guitar. You know, I'm sure there's like guitar tech people who would know that sound.
Yeah.
But there's something on a couple of the layers with the guitar that reminded me of that band and that time. Absolutely.
What song do you want to use to go out on this episode?
Ooh. So when I listen to this album, sometimes the thing that I do is with my AirPods, I put on an album when I'm at the grocery store. When I put on this album, I just feel like a total badass. At the grocery store, while I'm grocery shopping, here I am, this, 43-year-old mom at the grocery store, and the song that makes me feel like a badass the most is probably the Rage Against the Machine song.
Okay.
Because, that's... a lot of their songs make me feel like a badass, but when I'm purchasing my milk and eggs and I want to smash capitalism and yeah, so that would be my choice.
All right, good call. Rage is one of those bands that dominated that era. They were so big, and that they would be on the soundtrack is almost funny because it's like, hey, it's like an embarrassment of riches on the soundtrack. There's just so many big bands on here. And I know that was one that they had re-recorded or they released before, like a B-side or something, but I'd never heard it before.
Well, that's something that's even strange to me, that you have several bands that are so big. There's a lot of covers, but then there's bands that are re-recording one of their songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a weird mix of songs because you have songs that people are writing for the movie. You have songs that people are releasing early, like Stone Temple Pilots' Big Empty for their upcoming album. And you have stuff being re-recorded like Darkness. Covers. It's kind of a wild mix, but it works very well.
It absolutely works. And I wonder how many people were involved with... I remember an interview with Trent Reznor talking about it and referencing, the comic, talking about The Cure and Joy Division. And so it really makes me wonder, was the creator involved... having some pull with, who they wanted on there. There's got to be some good stories about how some of these things came to be.
This year is the 30th anniversary of this album. I would like to find, maybe a spoken history, an oral history of it or something like that. Getting the viewpoint of the people that helped put this album together. It'd make a great documentary, too. Because,
Ooh, it would.
I can't, again, there's few albums... especially soundtracks from the era that rival this in terms of popularity. The single soundtrack comes to mind.
Of course.
The Reality Bites soundtrack. Mm-hmm. Not many others. And those two probably are not as popular as this one. I'd be surprised if either one of those went triple platinum.
I think we'd go slightly out of the 93, 94 to go into a completely different genre for The Bodyguard. That was, another...
That was a big one.
Huge...
It's true.
Hugely successful soundtrack.
You're not wrong. Maybe someday I'll be on the show.
Maybe. I will do it.
Is there anything else you want to say about any of these songs?
I don't know. Just that it was so eye-opening to me at that age. And I love that I still love it. There's a lot of stuff that we listen to and then we kind of grow out of. You grow up, you come to a different place in your life, but... I still really enjoy this.
It really hadn't been that long since I listened to
Same.
it. You said, let's do it. And I'm like, okay, cool. And usually when I start listening to an album in preparation for an episode, I try to do it 2 weeks or so before recording. And I kind of dropped the ball with this one. I only started listening to it 4 or 5 days ago, and it didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Because it had only been a few months since I listened to it anyway.
Yes.
It's just one that when I listened to it a few months ago, I skipped Medicine and I skipped Love Not Lisa. but otherwise, it's been in pretty regular rotation.
Yeah.
Whole life, yeah.
Same. And I hope that there's no sad Pantera fans out there. I appreciate them for what they are. Sometimes, I gotta turn it down a little bit.
And all you Medicine fans out there, I bet you could fit in a phone booth. I'm sorry, just kidding.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not. I know they do have a fan base. I'm sure they do, but it's probably family.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the episodes, I typically ask some other questions. I'm getting a little more broad today. I'm kind of introducing a topic of conversation I wanted to talk about with you. Because I feel let me tell a story. As far as I know, the first time I ever went to Hot Topic... Is it your face?
I'm laughing.
The first time I ever went to Hot Topic, I went in there and I bought a Crow piece of paraphernalia. It was like a necklace that was the ring. And the necklace fucking broke, the thing broke almost immediately. But I wore the ring.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you remember, but in high school I was like the ring guy.
Okay, yes.
But
why?
I don't
be
know.
embarrassed.
Well, because,
Guys with rings on.
It was the 90s. I had sideburns.
Yeah.
I had all things.
Yeah.
It's different. It's a different time. Don't judge. But
I'm not judging.
that was like the first ring that I got. Was that one? Was the Eric Draven's?
It was like his wedding. Was his wedding
It was
band,
the wedding
right?
band. Yeah, that he goes and gets from John Polito's pawn shop.
Yes.
And shit on me, John Polito. Yeah. So, what are your memories of buying gothic things in the mall, such as Hot Topic or anywhere else?
Oh, well, so I also bought some official merch. I had a couple of posters.
Oh.
So I have this pink floral bedroom. And then now here comes some, Crow posters that I just thought he was so cool.
Honey, I think Amanda's changing.
Yeah. Well, I talked about how when I heard the music, or just that it was a different experience for me seeing it. Oh, gosh, my 13-year-old self or whatever thought, oh, God, he's sexy. I thought, he's got this cool get-up now, and he's putting makeup on his face. I'm like, what is this subculture?
Yeah.
I had no clue that there was a whole subculture of goth. I didn't know what that was, but then I kind of liked it. So yeah, I think I bought some stuff at Hot Topic. There was another girl at school that favored some of those fashions. I think I had some accessories and jewelry.
Yeah.
It's funny, I took my now teenager there maybe about a year ago, and he thought it was the coolest store because there's so much fandom merch there that you can get. There's really cool stuff there. I think it got made fun of a lot, like maybe by people who were more like gatekeeping or thought that they were tough, like, oh, these kids are gonna be mall goth or mall punk.
Right.
But for so many of us, that was our only experience. If we lived like we did, kind of on the outskirts of a city or not close to a lot of culture, we had an opportunity to get stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm into it. And I'm still into it.
I think Hot Topic is a brilliant business model because what I can gather, but I checked this morning, they opened like 1989. And, I didn't see them until like 93 or 94. But from what I gather, they've consistently just, whatever merchandise they've been selling is what the kids like.
It's what is popular
Here's
now.
what the kids like. This is the Hot Topic. So people making fun of Hot Topic, what we were really making fun of was like, hey, everyone is obsessed with nu metal and Jack Skellington.
Yes.
And that's kind of humorous.
And I will find that it's interesting how it makes younger people aware. Like, it's weird. You'll go in there. Do you ever see like a teenager in a really obscure band t-shirt?
Oh, yeah. Often.
Yeah. So I think there's a little bit of this get off my lawn thing. But, fuck that.
Oh, yeah. We want the kids listening to good
exactly. Music. It would be great if that's introducing young people to all kinds of music and getting into things, then awesome.
Yeah.
Like, everybody just let your freak flag fly and represent what you like. And yeah, it's cool.
Oh, yeah. I remember also, as far as malls go, like if I didn't get what I wanted at Hot Topic, the only other option was like these little kiosks.
Okay, yeah.
Remember, like there'd be like different kiosks and be like, I remember getting cologne. I was like 12 and I thought cologne was like a thing. Maybe 13 at one of these goth kiosks, and like I got the Vampire Lestat little tiny thing of cologne.
Now, could you describe what that smelled like? Do you remember?
Yes, it smelled like a corpse that had been consumed and shat out by an alligator.
Did it have notes of clove, leather?
It did. It was super clovey, actually.
Blood? I don't know.
Yeah, it was very clovey. And I really was proud of it. I really made it last. And I went back. There was other goth stuff there, too. Midnight something or other I got. But I did go through like a goth stage a little before this album. So I was like still sort of into it. But I was like, in 8th grade, I was like painting my nails black and listening to Ministry and The Cure and that kind of stuff. And like, of course, everyone asked me if I was gay.
Really?
And, oh, yeah. Yeah, I got asked that a lot. I'm like, no, I just want to have purple hair. But, so mall culture seems like weirdly tied up with this stuff. But not in a bad way, exactly. It's just, again, like this era was this widespread embrace of shit that was actually pretty fucking cool, but it became mainstream.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of memories of downtown Ann Arbor during that time. Going down there, and there was a couple of little stores that were goth.
Yeah, that would have been the cooler place to get that kind of stuff, for sure.
I don't remember going into Hot Topic that much during that time. I remember other stores, but they also had some weird goth stuff at Spencer Gifts.
Oh, yeah.
But that was also, just an odd...
Right, like another place
hodgepodge of weird.
We'll just sell whatever people will buy.
Yeah, but then also that's where you would go for adult items too. Like if you had if you were gonna do a bachelor or bachelorette party,
right, you needed penis-shaped candy.
Yes.
Then you would go there.
Or pasta,
right.
penis-shaped pasta.
Penis-shaped anything. Right?
Yeah, I think that's
Gags and Gifts. Is the place
that's where you would go. For my sense of choice, I would hit up the Body Shop. I was more Body Shop, not Bath and Body Works.
Okay.
There's a whole thing now online for our age with girls and which smell were you from Bath and Body Works. That's a whole thing. For any of the ladies listening who are around our age, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. But I was more... I wanted the essential oil stuff from the other store, the major competitor.
Not very goth, though.
No, I think that was a little bit more hippie, kind of. I think that was a whole other subculture around that time.
I sure miss the mall, just
The
kind of
hippie
generally,
people,
though.
yeah.
Like, being a teenager in the 90s and having $20 to burn. And going to the mall and just walking around, looking at the different tapes and stuff, just trying to find something. I do miss that. Any shopping I do now, have you been to a mall in a while? Every time I go, it's a pretty depressing experience.
Well, because there's just been the downfall of malls, right?
Right. So it's this big cavernous space.
Yeah.
The stores are still there, but half the stores aren't, or maybe a third of them aren't.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the ones that are, these weird fly-by-night places, you're I've never heard of
Yes.
this before. You can tell it looks like it was plastered up there yesterday.
It's the Halloween store model, but for all kinds of shit.
Yeah, for anything.
Yeah.
Just I got a bunch of shit. I'm going to go to this mall, rent out space for 3 months.
Just like a guy.
Yeah.
He's can I just set up shop here?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, anything else?
I don't think so. I love doing this. It's fun. I love the show.
Thank you.
I know that you had several people on a bunch, and I really enjoy listening. And that's it.
Come back.
Yay!
Bye.
Well, I'll strike a match and it'll catch and spread the insight we need. A tiny fire, burning bright, shedding light on the darkness of greed. Yes, yo, and you don't stop. Shedding light on the darkness of greed. Yes, yo, and you don't stop. Shedding light on the darkness of greed.
I am happy to report that since recording this episode, Amanda and I actually went to a mall. We, of course, went to Hot Topic and learned that pretty much every store in the mall, well, not every, that's an exaggeration, but realistically, half the stores are following Hot Topic's business model, which is that they basically just sell fan shit. Tons of Funko Pops. Every store sells Funko Pops now, apparently. And, other assorted knickknack related to Marvel or Five Nights at Freddy's or Naruto or whatever. So that's the update from the mall, which I'm sure Rage Against the Machine would very much appreciate. And speaking of Rage Against the Machine, here's a mood shift. Remember Lisa Loeb in 9 Stories?
You say I only hear what I want to. You say I talk so all the time. So
This song was a big hit, and it was on the Reality Bites soundtrack from 1994. You like The Crow? Maybe you like Reality Bites? Maybe you want to talk about the soundtrack. You know somebody else that wants to talk about the soundtrack. This is the part of the show where I send the call out for listeners to be on the show if they so desire to be. No pressure, just an idea. If you want to be on the show and talk about any album from 1993 or 1994 that I haven't done yet, such as Reality Bites or another soundtrack, whatever, hit me up at 9394podcast@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook. And if you want to hear more of me and Amanda talking, I am also happy to report that you can look forward to an upcoming third podcast from yours truly. I'm starting with my good friend Amanda and Steve Guile, who has also been on the show. So I'll have more information about that forthcoming. But in short, we will be looking at seasons of television, starting with Apple Plus's Dark Matter. So more information on that soon. Okay, that is it for today. Thank you for listening. I hope you are doing well. Adios.
'93-'94, a music podcast with Travis Roy, is a labor of love. It is not and never will be monetized. Please don't sue.